You're very welcome to Confident Women Island's YouTube channel here on the Woman to Woman Show with me, Roisin the Cleric. I'm delighted, as always, to be chatting to the one and only Mary Curran from the Centre for Professional and Personal Development. As you know, Mary is one of Ireland's most experienced leadership and mentors and coaches here in Ireland and brought coaching to Ireland with another group of coaches, and I will leave the bio for Mary in the description box below, along with her other 7 interviews. So do click on those interviews on YouTube, links in the description box below, and click on and learn more about Mary if this is your first time clicking onto us. First of all, we have to give a plug. Mary is also the author of Life Begins When You're Ready to Listen with Mary Curran. Mary, can you just remind our listeners how they can source this book? This amazing book, which I say every time I gave a weekend when you sent this to me, I lay on that sofa and I had my own holistic retreat.
Thank you, Roisin. Thank you very much for being here. So yeah, the book can be, you can get the book from me if you just email me, Mary Curran at coachcenter.com, and my website is marycurran.ie. You'll buy the book there, or I'll send it out to you if you order it there, or else you have it on amazon.com or Balboa Press, who are the publishing company, who are a division of Hay House, that you can buy straight away from them as well.
Perfect. And Mary, your links to your email and your website will be in the description box below. So if you're looking to purchase one of this most amazing book, I would say, apart from the Anthony Robbins and Wayne Dwyer books, this is the book that you will really, really, really keep as like your little treasure book for coaching and personal development. Mary, this week we are talking about one of my favorite subjects and topics and the issues of resilience.
Yes, correct. Yeah, and it's a huge area, both personally and in the world, the business world. Resilience is coming up a lot. And I only last week delivered to Limerick University on the subject of resilience. And it was really a wellness day. So it was a day for people. There different workshops going on, brilliant workshops going on. And it was great to be there to see how much people care nowadays in organizations, in universities, everywhere where people care about others. So resilience starts with yourself. But we need to understand what resilience is. We also need to understand a little bit about our brain. We need to understand how stress is connected to resilience and how resilience is connected to stress. So there's a lot there to begin with. So first of all, if you can imagine, resilience is your ability to deal with adversity and come out the other side further on. A few people would say to me, "Oh, Mary, I cope. I cope with what's happening. And I'm okay. I get back out to where I was." That's not resilience. Resilience isn't about coping. I describe resilience where an object has an impact, an object is there and an adversity hits the object and it has an impact. And that impact is like an elastic band. So resilience is literally elastic. When we talk about the brain elasticity, it's like imagining elastic band. And when you pull it and you stretch it, it can stretch for a long time, but if you keep pulling it, it's going to break down. Now, the one thing I never want to do when I'm working with people is for them to get to that place. I want to work with them to gain resilience. I want to work with them to realize what resilience is. And the one thing I'll say about resilience is that we don't get it just from the present. We get it from past events. And that's why I would run an exercise on past events and how you got through life's adversity then. So a lot of people kind of think, is it a skill? Yes, it is a skill that you can perform on. It is a skill that you can do a lot better on. However, long ago, I would say more my generation, I really believe we had a lot of resilience because we got it from the example of our parents and the people and aunties and uncles that we adored. Today, unfortunately, I don't know if the young people are as in depth with what resilience is. So so that's another really valid, or it's a great question to ask. What's today's society and how are they dealing with resilience? So to begin with, and I know, you know, I'm very much into emotional intelligence and the parts of the brain. So let's just talk for a moment about the brain. So when stress enters our life, it affects the amygdala part of the brain, which is the fight, flight, or freeze. And
Yes.
it's going like 100%. Now, when stress comes into our life, it also affects the neocortex, frontal cortex of the brain. That's the traditional, logistic, rational brain. So when stress enters our life, it slows down to the neocortex part of the brain only functions at 60% instead of 100%, while the amygdala part of the brain is still acting with 100%. So the question is, how do you slow down the amygdala to be able to be rational and make the right decisions with the neocortex part of the brain? And that comes in with all of mindfulness. That comes in with the 3-minute pause and breathing exercise. When you do the exercise for 3 minutes, what happens is you slow down the amygdala and you allow the neocortex part of the brain to come back up to 100%. And then you can make a functional decision, you can make a rational decision. So when we talk about the magic pause, when we talk about the 3-minute exercise, they are so important because you need to be 100% in your frontal, you know, cortex of the brain as much as 100% in the amygdala. And what happens with stress is the amygdala goes fighting, flighting, and the neocortex is finding it hard to catch up. So that's why we always introduce the 3-minute exercise of breathing in and breathing out for 3 minutes.
Mary, would you like to do that exercise now?
Yeah, I can do that exercise.
That would be powerful, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I can, because it's
Yeah.
really, I'll tell you what it's brilliant at. In Eastern philosophy, when I studied it years ago in philosophy, we go through 3 modes a day. We go through rajas, we go through tamas, and we go through sattva. So just they're gunas, to call the 3 gunas in Eastern philosophy, they're modes, you know, the modes. So if we go to the tamas mode, that's the mode where it's called the idle mode. So you're on a sofa, you're doing absolutely nothing, and you're just lying back, thinking about life, thinking about everything. And I'm sure you've heard the expression idle mind. Now, it's okay to have tamas mode and be in the idle mind for a while, but if you stay there, in comes your doubts, your thoughts, in comes the gremlin, and all of a sudden it's not a great place to be. So if somebody is lounging around too long in that tamas mode, they can get depressed, they can get very down. So we don't encourage you to go there or stay. Well, you can go there, we all can go there, but not stay there. Then you have the next mode, which is the rajas part of the brain. And the rajas, think about Roshan as the racing mind. And we mostly do this every day. This is where we're rushing from. I'm having this interview with you now, and I'm thinking, oh, what's next? What's on? Oh, at 2 o'clock at this. That's the racing mind. Now, the reality is, if you're attending a workshop while you have that race in mind, you're not in the present moment consciousness, and you're not able to be alert. You're not taking in half, if not even 30% of what the workshop is about. So Rajas needs to calm down, and that's the part that's influenced very much by the amygdala. And the last mode then is the sattva, which is known as the peaceful state, this peaceful mode. And you obtain that through meditation, mindfulness meditation. So what and when I do the introduction to mindfulness, the one thing I always say to people is that there is scientific proof now that if you for 90 days do 20 minutes every morning, 20 minutes every night of mindfulness meditation, it will be scientifically proved that the amygdala slows down and the neocortex frontal part of the brain becomes more alert, and far more able to make very good decisions. So, however, a lot of people say, I don't have 20 minutes a day. I don't have 20 minutes in the morning, I don't have 20 minutes at night. So what we encourage you to do is a 3-minute one. And this 3-minute meditation, mindfulness meditation, will calm you down and will bring you totally into the present moment consciousness, which is where we want to be when we want to learn and when we want to be alert. So
and I really get that, because remember I told you that I remember when I was live on air on radio presenting my woman to woman show.
Yeah.
That was the first time where I knew I was in the present moment. and how I know I'm in the present moment was by my voice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was really powerful for me, because now I know it's like I know by my voice if my mind is free of the clutter and racing mind.
Yeah.
So I know by my voice, and I know by my voice exactly those three things that you said.
Yeah.
And that calmness, that stillness,
Yeah.
I know by I can hear my voice as
Yeah.
if it was the earphones that radio presenters have. I hear my voice in my head, and I am still.
And that is absolutely brilliant, because that's where you're alert, that's where you're in the present moment, and that's where everything flows. Yeah. So it's only takes 3 minutes. So
Yeah,
would you
let's
like
do
me to
it.
do it now? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd love to do that.
Okay.
And this
So
is completely, we're just going on flow with nothing planned for this. So
no, no. And I must say, like, for these 3 minutes, well, it's 2 to 3 minutes, we will be keeping our eyes closed as well. So would that be okay with this
yeah,
part? No.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay with me. Yep. So
Yeah.
what we'll do is I rely on you to bring us back to the 3
Oh,
minutes.
yeah, of course I will.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
I might go to sleep.
Okay. Okay. So the first thing I would invite you to do is just sit up straight in your chair and close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth 3 times. So if you take a deep breath in through the nose and out, and another deep breath in and out, and one more deep breath in and out. And just for the next minute or so, I'd like to invite you to become aware of your feet on the ground. Become aware of your body in the chair. Become aware of any taste in your mouth. Become aware of any smells or aromas in your room. And lastly, I invite you to become aware of listening. And for the next minute or so, I would like you to focus in on your listening very up close around you, and then broaden your listening to outside the room. Just concentrate on sound and listening. Should a thought come into your mind, imagine there is a balloon above your head with a string attached. And as that thought flows into your mind, it attaches itself to the string of the balloon and it floats away. And you come back to listening. So in the next minute or so, just concentrate your time, your precious time, on just listening. And as I count down, 3, 2, 1, I invite you to come back into the present moment, open your eyes, and be alert and present in the present moment consciousness. That's the exercise, Roisin. I use that when I have one client back to back. Because have you ever found if you work with somebody, you walk out of a meeting and you're going into another meeting, you're carrying what just has been said. It's still in your memory.
Yeah.
So how can you be totally in the present moment with the person that you're seeing next? So I use this all the time. I use it through in between meetings, but I also use it if I'm feeling stressed, because it calms down the amygdala and it gives the frontal cortex, part of the brain, time to get alert and focus again.
I
How
just
did you
feel
find that, Roisin?
so, I feel so centered. I just feel so in the moment, so at peace and calm. I'm not thinking about anything. And I think I said this before. I remember my son, when he was young, he never stopped talking. And then it got quieter, and as you got older. And then I remember one time, because I'm always thinking, I'm always a thinker, right? And I go, and I said, what are you thinking about? Nothing. I said, how can you think about nothing? I mean, you just cannot quieten the mind and think about nothing. Then in 2017, my daughter took me away for a holiday after graduating from when I went back to education. And I remember on the rooftop beside the swimming pool of the hotel. And I remember I just said, oh my God, for the last 10 minutes, I thought about nothing. So I came back and said, I texted him, oh my God, I now know what you mean when I used to ask you, what are you thinking about? Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking now, about nothing, about just
It's so
being
powerful.
here
It
with
is
you.
so powerful. And there are many brilliant people out there that talks about the fact that we need to pay attention to what our mind is thinking, and that our mind doesn't have to control our thoughts. And there's so many people out there, Roshan, that that you can listen to around the power of, as you said, being in the moment and not thinking about anything. Yeah.
And I always know by my voice. I
Yes.
don't know why, I'm an auditory, I'm usually kinesthetic and auditory.
Yeah.
But my
Then it
goodness.
would be auditory. It would be the auditory. And for me, my sense of being in the moment is when I just feel so present. For me, then it's kinesthetic. It's just I'm just so in the moment. That as I think I said and shared to you before, when somebody asked me what did I say, I would be constant. I can't remember. It was in the present
Yeah.
moment. I don't remember what I
Yeah.
said. And that's a lovely place to be as well, because that's where you are unconsciously competent and you're in the flow, like the pianist or the dancer that doesn't
Yeah.
think the next step. It's a lovely place to be.
And I always think when I'm in the present moment and I'm on flow, as you said, you never remember what you say. But that's when you're really, really in flow in that present moment. And that's when the most powerful, I would say, content that I deliver is when I'm in flow.
In the flow.
Yeah.
So
Well,
going back,
that's powerful, Mary.
back
Thank you.
to resilience then. One of the first steps we take to bring you into resilience, when you feel out of control, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel this adversity is too big for me, the first thing we ask you to do is do a gratification list. Because the mind can only think of one thought at a time. So if you start thinking about what you're grateful for, you can't be thinking about what you don't have. If you're thinking about what you are grateful for, and make a list of 3 or 4 things, and then people that you're grateful for in your life, you're bringing up your energy. And the first thing about creating resilience is bringing up the energy that's going to give you the resilience. And you do that by the gratification list. So what I get people to do in my workshop would be make a list of 5 things you're grateful for in your life. So that could be your shower, your home, your car, things, okay? Then I ask them to make a list of 5 people they're so grateful for in their lives. Now, the interesting thing is I get them to measure their energy from 0 to 10 before they do this exercise. And it might say, I'm at a lull, Mary, I'm around a 5 or 6. Then to do this exercise, and I say to them, how do you feel now on a scale of 0 to 10? And they'll always give me an 8 or 9. It brings up your energy. So when you're feeling down or feeling out of control, that one of the best things you can do is not always possible, because people feel, I don't want to be grateful. I want to stick at what's going on now, and I want to deal with what's going on now. But that's the first thing we say about resilience is bring in, introduce gratification. So then after that, we move on from bringing in, gratification to what stops us from being resilient.
That's really, really key, isn't it?
Yeah. So one reason and what stops us is when we dwell on the past with the negatives instead of the positives. So we're looking for past references that are negative rather than positive. That stops us. The second thing that stops us would be the Cartman's triangle, where you're the rescuer or you're the persecutor or you're the victim. If you're on that triangle, that can stop you from being resilient. So then you look at the story you're telling yourself. Now, we all tell ourselves stories all the time. So if you are facing an adversity and you're telling yourself the story of, well, I didn't succeed the last time, I didn't pass my driving license, I'm not going to pass it this time. Well, then that's going to be your reality. So you need to tune into what story am I running my mind with at the moment? What am I telling myself? And then, of course, what else stops us from being resilient will be your limiting beliefs, your doubts, your fears. So that's all about what's stopping us from being resilient. Then moving into how it's a skill that you can build, but how do I become more resilient? So this is the biggest part, Roisin, of the exercise that I do. So what I get you to do now, I can do this with you, and you can see how much resilience comes up for you.
Yes.
No, not resilience. We're looking for resources. Sorry, we're looking
Yes.
for resources. Okay. So how you do this is you picture an event of the past that has happened. It can be the recent past, whatever. And it's where you're faced with challenges, where you are feeling, oh, I need to get I need to get a hands on here. I need to be resilient. I need to get through this. This is a big challenge for me. So what I get people to do is picture in the past where you had an event where you were frightened, where you were doubtful, but you went through it and you got there, you achieved it. Now, what we're great at doing, and you will know this through coaching, when you ask somebody to write down their empowering beliefs about themselves, they will struggle. They'll take 5 or 10 minutes to write down 3 empowering beliefs. If you ask them to write down the negative limiting beliefs that they have about themselves or about their achievements, they're rushing away 10 or 20 in a minute, So the mind always reflects and defaults first to the negative. Sometimes to protect us, but that's what the brain does. It goes and defaults to negative first. So a lot of people only uses the past for a negative external reference. I get you with resilience to use the past as a positive reference to how you got through a situation, event, or person. So we can do this live, we can do it naturally, but I would need you to think of an event. It could be as recent, what's in the past that you got through and got out the other side in a very positive way.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, have you got something in mind?
Yeah.
Great, okay. So what I would ask you to do is share with me the event and what you thought your challenges would be. And then I'm going to ask you the questions, because what I'm doing by asking the questions is finding out for you, but you will acknowledge what your resources were. I'll ask the questions, you will acknowledge. Okay. Okay, so you want to give me an example of an event?
Okay, I'm going to use 2 years ago, I left the local media.
All right, okay.
Right, didn't know what I'd be doing, didn't even think about it. I left media, and that was a challenge, making the decision and what was next for me.
So your challenge was making a decision to leave media, but then the resilience challenge was the unknown. What's next? The unknown. Okay, okay, all right, okay.
So I had already set up the Confident Women Ironing channel, but that for me, that was the fun. I was more broadcast. I was never visual media. So the challenge was, what was I going to do with the skills, tools, and techniques and my degree going forward? I'm 55.
Okay.
Right? Where do I go? What do I do? And I knew I had all the tools, and I knew I had the toolbox within me. And I knew I had my self-confidence and self-belief that once I decided I knew what I was going to do, I would do it. Because I knew from all my past that I had overcome so many obstacles in my life.
So what resources did you believe you had from the past that helped you through this challenge?
The self-belief in me.
Okay. What else?
Knowing that I could cope with anything that came in front of me, as long as I trusted me.
Now, what's interesting, Roisin, is, and I'm only honing in here because it's really important. When I hear you say, I realized I could cope with whatever, in the world of resilience, we want you to do more than cope. We want you to come out the other side going forward with a positive. So if I was to challenge you in, yes, I learned to cope with and knew I had to cope with. But I now I'm going to ask you to go to your resources and ask me, what did you come out with that is positive that will take you a step further in building your resource?
I knew I had the mindset, and I knew I had the tenacity, which is another word for resilience, if you think about it.
Well, tenacity is a resource, so is
Yeah.
the mindset. Yeah, their resources. Yeah.
I knew I was going to have to go on a completely different platform
Okay.
and create it myself.
Okay. So what did that take? What resources did that take to go on a new
Determination.
platform? Determination. So that's another huge, great resource. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I had to, technology. My son has always said technology is wasted on me. However, when I was younger, my mom used to buy us every Christmas, my sister and I, walkie-talkie dolls. Remember them walkie-talkie
Yeah.
dolls? They were actually bigger than me when I was young, right? The walkie-talkie dolls. And ever since we would get them, my sister would go mad. I would get the walk. I wanted to know how they could talk. How could dolls talk, like robots talk? So I used to take one walkie-talkie doll, which is bigger than me, or the same size as me, because I was always very tiny and petite. I used to take one of them apart. I mean, it seems, and I used to do it when everybody was in bed, asleep. I used to get up in the middle of the night and open up one of the dolls. It was always my sister's. I used to open it up, all, to see how the little walkie-talkie worked. And I
Right.
put it back together again.
Wow.
I just wanted to know how it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
so, so I knew, and when I lived in Saudi Arabia, we used to have sandstorms in the compound, the sandstorms in Saudi Arabia. And I used to clean, my father showed me how to clean the heads of the little heads where the old big tapes used to go in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I used to clean the white heads with nail
Yeah.
polish remover and a earbud. And then I made a bit of money because everybody used to know I did it within the compound. They used to bring, after every sandstorm, they used to bring me their because then you had the VHS, is it, and the Betamax or the Betamax. I can't remember the English one and the American one were two different sizes. The Americans were the big ones, the English ones were smaller tapes, on the videos. And so yes, I'm out of sync with technology now. But
Yeah. Well,
but my son used to joke
there's
with me that it
yeah.
was wasted on me. So one of the things I had to overcome was learning the new technology.
Right. So now there's two more resources you have within yourself there. And I don't want to give, as a coach, I don't want to give them to you. What would you describe someone that took a doll apart, see how it worked, and put it back together? What's the resource that is? Name it.
Curiosity.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Because as you know, in coaching, we don't tell you. If I tell you, you're not going to own it. There's another resource you have. You have tenacity, you have determination, you've got curiosity, which is probably one of the best ones because that's why you're a great coach. I mean, if you're not curious as a coach, you can
Yeah.
forget about being a coach. And what's the other one then? The deal with this one, I again don't want to give it to you, but you're able to realize, I can banish the idea that I'm not good with technology because I've proven the opposite. So, and now, okay, reality wise, I might be not in depth with the latest savvy and the latest technology, whatever it is, but you still had a resource. What was that other resource?
I would say my son might disagree with me, but but I would definitely say the ability to want to learn new things and discover more things about myself in learning new things.
I love that fact because when I'm building resilience with people, there's two pieces, it's two-pronged. It's not just building and finding out your new resources. It's also about looking at your abilities. So
All
you're
right.
just able there and then able to identify the difference between resources and abilities. These are two things that we're not consciously aware of at all, Roisin. And unless you go through stories that you, and I wish, at my talk in the workshop, I didn't have time to go through the whole program with them, like what I'm doing with you. And it brings out so much more learning and recognition for the client to realize. And that's you're my client, I'm just saying for you to realize your
right now I'm your client.
and your ability and your abilities, I mean, to come out naturally. So once they come out the way they're coming out now in the story you're telling me, you're going to own them. You're going to be taking those resources now into whatever next adversity you face.
And then once I know my ability and the resources, I can see potential, no matter how long it takes. And I would also say the tenacity knows I've got the patience to let it develop.
Yeah.
From concept to development to it actually happening.
So
the patience
to development to executing.
Yeah.
Excellent. 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 So this, I'm just after doing there an example of how you build resilience.
Right.
Because as I said, we don't naturally give ourselves credit for anything. We're more our self-critics than we are our achiever. So that was an example of how to build resilience. And you give a great example there. But to bring me up to date then, getting to realize that you can have tenacity, that you can be determined, that you had the vision, moving on to that after giving up everything for 2 years. You want to bring me to the end of the story then, what has happened?
Okay. I suppose if one thing I've learned in life at 57 is not to beat myself up emotionally and mentally when I make mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see the positive learning from the mistakes of what went wrong, how it went wrong, and why it went wrong. So I go backwards. Okay, what did I do? So, well, why did it go wrong? What did I do wrong? Okay, don't beat myself up. Making mistakes is the best learning curve, but that's okay. I'm 57. You try telling a 16-year-old that, a 10-year-old that, a 10-year-old would probably go, okay, but a teenagers, I know, where they go, okay, a lot of people would wallow. Is that the right word? Wallow and stay stuck in the mistake instead of going, okay, we'll make a mistake, move on.
But you see, Roisin,
finding solutions.
Yeah, but literally what you're saying there is describing the difference between success and failure. Failure is where you set out to do something, you come across a challenge, you make a mistake, and you stay stuck. That's failure. Success is where you set out to do something, you come across a challenge, you look at what, and you reevaluate, you reflect on what went well, what could have been done better, but you move on with the lesson and the learning. That's success.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. And that's exactly what happens in resilience as well. And I always refer to, in supervision, we used to call it the after action review. They used to use it in the military. So afterwards, when they set out to, whatever they were doing in the military, to come back to do an after action review. And it would be, what do we set out to do? What went well? What could we have done better? What's the learning to take forward into the future as a positive? And that alone creates great resilience. Yeah, but it's also very important to be mindful of not to reflect on only what went wrong. Yeah. Now, sometimes with our temperaments, Roisin, and I know we've talked about that before, but like sometimes the people that are introverted and they have a very, they see the glass half empty. When they go out on a journey and they're facing adversity, they sometimes will just stay stuck and knock it and say, well, here I am, like, where do I go from here? And they mightn't have the energy or the resources to move on.
Yeah.
So what we've learned in resilience is we need resources. We need them from within ourselves, which you have great resources. You just have to demonstrate brilliant resources. But and this has been asked, Roisin, in leadership and in companies nowadays, leaders need to let their staff know that we're here for them. They're people. An organization is full of people, and we need to be able to show them, if you're having an off day, you can go to somebody, you can talk about your challenge or whatever is facing you. rather than ignoring them, giving them, you know, open, what's the word, opportunity to talk about their challenges, you know, showing them, showing them empathy, showing them compassionate inquiry, making sure that they know they're being supported. Because people in organizations need to find their resilience in the organization, from the people around them. So the two resources are the resources within ourselves, and the other set of resources are from the people around us. Because when I've been given some examples sometimes, one person once shared to me, and she goes, only for my sister. She was my biggest resource when I went through this hell. You know, so sometimes it's not the resources within yourself that you get through the adversity. You get through it because you have the resources of other people.
Yes.
But we want you to realize that you're stronger again if you have the resources within yourself first, not always in alignment with other people, but if you have some resources in yourself that you're aware of, and then the help of other people, then that's great. That's two lots of resources that you will.
And too, I think resilient, I suppose really sometimes people, when I was younger, other people used to say I was born with resilience, because when I was born, I couldn't talk. I had absolutely no nose, no palate, and I couldn't talk. My mother used to have to feed me, not even with a teaspoon. It was an egg spoon, little tiny egg spoons.
Yeah, do you?
And that's how my mom fed me for a good few months. I just had a big hole, and so I didn't speak until I was 5. The first word, 2 words I said was flower, and my grandmother took me out for a walk, and she named me, and Roisin Teresa. Roisin is rose in Irish, right? And Teresa was the little flower. You know, Saint Teresa, the little flower.
Yeah.
And she used to pray for me, and so she took me out for a walk, and she forgot this day they were the forget me not flowers.
Yes.
And she used to push me. I don't know why I was in the pram at 5. I don't know why. Maybe because I was too tiny. She just didn't want. She just, you know, and she forgot to, when we went past the forget me nots, to say flower. And it wasn't. She understood. The first word she could like flower. It probably wasn't like the hour or something. And I came home, and this was in the 70s. And my mom and dad, they used to always go to these home, the home shows and stuff. And they had a television. It was one of the first televisions, and I came home and probably wasn't the right pronunciation, but television. So flower and television for not speaking. And my family, my mom and dad was told I'd be deaf, dumb, and mute.
Jesus.
And I suppose it was that. And that's where you go about people believing in you. You have to have outside resources. My mom and dad paid privately for speech therapy because I couldn't get on the list. So I went to speech therapy quietly. I had surgeries upon surgeries upon surgeries. And I'm really oversharing here. But resilience, I think to have resilience, you've got to overcome obstacles.
Yeah.
You've got to overcome life challenges to build up that resilience.
And I think a lot of it is to do with what we say to ourselves.
Yeah.
If we tell ourselves, I remember, and I will give the praise to Susan Jeffers, Field of Fair.
Yes.
Anyway, from her one book, I remember she had a great affirmation.
Yes, it's here. Yeah.
It was called, no matter what happens, you can handle it.
Yes.
And this is amazing as well, because I think our lives are linked. Every job we do, every person we meet, they're all linked.
Yeah.
Because embracing uncertainty, Susan, there you are. Yeah. And again, as I said earlier, I've attended her workshops as well long ago. But the one thing I remember was I wasn't a coach, Roisin. I was just running the restaurant in the Stephen's Green Centre. And we were known for our coffees. We won awards for our coffee, So this day at lunchtime, I'll never forget this, the coffee machine, the barista machine broke down. I had 6 staff on the front counter, and I had about 8 in the kitchen. Yeah, it was 15 staff altogether. And I remember we'd have a queue a mile long for lunchtime. And I remember the girls running into me because I happened to be in the kitchen doing something. And they said, Mary, The coffee machine's broken down. We've no coffee. We've no coffee. We've no coffee. We've only got water. The coffee machine isn't working and all this. What are we going to do on all these people? And I'm going, okay. And I remember Susan Jeffers' words. I'd read the book. No matter what happens, you can handle it. And the minute I said it, it obviously calmed down. Now I can say it with my own work and my own study. It was the amygdala. It calmed me down. And I went to the girls and I went, right, there's 9 shops on this floor. I want you to go to every one of them because I know every one of them have electric kettles. And I want you to bring them all to me. And we're going to put them all in the kitchen. And I'll deal with everybody at the counter. I will explain to them there's no cappuccinos a day. We can offer you tea or ordinary coffee. I sent another girl down to buy about 10 jars of the best coffee to go get. But I'll always remember, Mary, no matter what happens, you can handle it. And that day, that lunch wasn't a nightmare. In fact, people just went, oh, but that can happen. Thank you. I'll have an ordinary coffee. I'll have a tea. But she saved my life that day. Whereas some of the girls there, the lovely young people, they're all panicking. And one of them said, I'm not meeting the customers. I'm going inside. I don't want to deal with them. Tell them there's no cappuccino. I'm telling them there's no whatever it was, Americano, whatever. And I remember thinking, my God, it works. It works. These affirmations work. So I was so believing in the story we tell ourselves and the words we say to ourselves way before I became a coach. You know what I mean? It's still within me. It obviously was always there. But as you said about resilience comes from the story that we tell ourselves. It comes from the past examples of references like yours, which was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it also comes then from the resources in the present moment that we own up to, that we own, and the abilities, because abilities are different than resources. Abilities is before resources. The ability to be able, as you said, to have tenacity to get to the end result. They're different, slightly different. So it's a lovely subject. I'm very passionate about resilience. It's very linked, as you know, as well, to personal responsibility, because when and we talked about that before, so I know I'm not going to go over old ground. I'm just saying that, personal responsibility is very linked as well to having great resilience, because you don't blame anybody else for where you've landed. You kind of go, okay, we're here. So what do we do about where we are now? Rather than you're the reason that.
Yeah, what I do, Mary, is a lot of people say, oh, use affirmations. But what you did is how I describe in my work as, you can use affirmations, but affirmations without proactive mindset and action is nothing. They're just words.
Oh,
but
you're so
what you did,
right. You are so right. So when I coach somebody on reframing their limiting beliefs to positive affirmations, to me, it's not over. That's only 1/3 of the game. It's only 1/3. Now I have to I choose to coach them then on, okay, let's go back over the affirmations. Now, how are you going to make this a reality? What is the action you need to take for this affirmation that you're going to be saying every day to become a reality? And I think that happened because if you remember all the, almost 2 or 3 years of the secret, the positive mindset. What's the other thing? It was The Secret, and what's the other books? I read them all.
I disagree with The Secret to a certain degree.
But this is what I was going to say, Rose, because this is really important. The Secret and the Law of Attraction.
Law of Attraction.
When they came out, they were telling everybody. Now, I'm not knocking about, there's some gems in both of them, in all of them. But what I'm saying is this. They were saying, you just say these affirmations and you're going to manifest. I'm sorry.
Go out and buy that big black BMW. Go out and buy that BMW and the money will come. And I remember I used to do ironing. And I used to iron and go, well, if you go out and buy the BMW or the big car or the big purchase, if you don't know how you're going to pay for that, you're going to end up having to give it back and having bad credit.
You see, I definitely believe in the power of affirmation as regards building your self-confidence. I believe in it at the beginning of giving a talk, I would be saying, Mary, I am my best. I give my best. People are going to receive my best. How can I serve today? They're all affirmations, I say, and I will say them every day because they really work for me. But when you talk about manifestation, when you're talking about, say an affirmation and you're just going to get it. No, you're not going to just get it.
You need that proactive mindset with action.
But also, you need to have the energy behind the affirmation. So, and they didn't mention that. What I'm saying there is that imagine me now saying, let me see, I'll think of an affirmation now, a nice one. I wonder I like, I shouldn't say a nice one because everybody is different. Like, let me
One
see.
that works for you.
Yeah, let me see, one of mine. Yeah. One of mine when I started out coaching, you probably love it, Roshi. I shouldn't assume, but it was like, one of my affirmations was, I'm a loving and powerful person and empower others to be the best, or something like that. Or no, people are attracted to me because I care and love them and want to help them or whatever. And it was something like that, right? And the other one was, I always attract like-minded people into my life. I only attract like-minded people into my life every day. And that did happen. Now, but the point was my energy would have been very high. Now think about this. And this comes from the book from Dr. The Power of Source. You know the book, The Power of Source by oh well no, it'll come to me in a moment. But the Power of Source talks about, you know, the energy we collaborate or we calibrate on this earth. You know, Jesus calibrated on 1,000, Buddha was 900. The energy. So you can say, let's say I say an affirmation like, I attract like-minded people into my life every day. So let's say I say, I attract like-minded people in my life every day in a really positive way. The chances are I can do that because my energy is immediately connected to the universal energy. So human beings are meant to be at least over 600 in calibration. But imagine if I'm saying, I attract like-minded people into my life every day.
The frequency and vibrations of what you're saying is not matching the words
That's
and the actions.
Exactly. So as you said earlier, you could say all the affirmations in the world, and if your energy vibration isn't matching the universal energy, it's Dr. Peter Schwartz.
Yeah.
Dr. Peter Schwartz. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you
This is
got the words have energy.
Yeah. Every
Words have
thought, every word has energy. Yeah.
And the vibration
Yeah.
that affects every cell in our body.
Now, that's an NLP phrase which I literally live by, which is every word we use affect our emotions that bring about different results. That's exactly what we're talking about,
Yeah.
Rosie. See how synchronized we are, and that this is exactly it. So I mean, this anybody's just saying to you, oh, say this affirmation is going to happen. That's not going to happen. You've got to have your energy, your vibration connected to what you desire, and then say, by all means, 100% the positive affirmation, which will work on the neuropathic part of the brain and change it within 30 days.
And then the frequency of every word, every emotion, every behavior, every action and reaction has a frequency like a radio dial to attract things to happen. The manifestation of the frequency, the vibration and energy of the word and the body.
And then Dr. Joe Dispenza, which I think is brilliant.
And
what they say about every neuron that fires together flows together, whatever. So as you say it in synchronicity with how you're feeling, it goes into the natural path and it changes the neuropathic message after 30 days. So they do work, but it's how you say them and the energy you give them.
And I think it's that internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. It's how we perceive who we are in the world we live in, Dr. Wayne Dwyer. How we perceive the world, how we perceive who we are in the world that we live in. Do we live in a hostile world or friendly world? And do we have our own back? Never mind anybody else having our back. Do we have our own back?
Yeah.
In how we speak to ourselves.
Yeah, because the book starts with us. Like, that's just reality. I mean, you know, I can't give respect if I don't have it for myself. I can't give. Recently, I was working with somebody, she was brilliant. I think I mentioned her already, but it's just, she was attracting people who aren't emotionally available. But drilling down and coaching ended up, the fact was, she wasn't emotionally available herself. So you attract what you are. It's like when I had a restaurant. When I had a restaurant, I was very young, very naive, and I attracted people to stole from each other. And I'm starting going, oh, is that my energy or what is it? But it was like my belief at that time was maybe people in this world, in this business, aren't honest. So I started working on, I'm going to attract only people that are honest and loving, and I had a wonderful team in the end, just wonderful people. So you do attract what you think. You do attract what you believe.
And if your word, I think your words, and this is something that I know you really value, pardon the pun, what's going to come up next, is every word that we use has the frequency, vibration, and energy, but it has, if it has to be connected to our core values.
It has to be. If it's not in alignment with your core values, it's going to cause conflict.
Yeah.
And there'll be no peace and no harmony.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing was with Bandler, we did in NLP, we did what you call it, they introduced us to now I'm not qualified in kinesiology, but they were proving the point with the muscle test around using the word have to and choose to.
It drops, doesn't it?
It drops down. Now I'm not qualified in kinesiology, but I saw that happen. And on my course, you will not believe what we used to do. I used to bring in people and they had to put books in envelopes and they had to bring in ordinary sugar and then the artificial sugar and all that. And they had to hold whatever they had in the envelope. They didn't know what it was. And they had to say, is this good for me or bad? And they had to say, this is down and this is up before they answered. And the hand would go down and it was Hitler, the hand stayed up when it was Mother Teresa. It was unbelievable, the power of energy and the power, you can get energy from a book. As Dr. Wayne says, think of a baby being born and the energy comes up at you in seconds. Then he goes, think of somebody dying and you just go down. So every thought, every word we use, as he says, we are energy beings having a human experience.
We are energy beings, and that energy is like a light.
It is.
Flash. Do you ever have somebody who could walk into a room and the energy in the room just goes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or somebody that walks into the room and you go, okay, it's a lovely feeling. Or, or somebody walks past you and you just get the shivers. Either way, it's still energy. So, and you go, okay, what's that? And then you listen to your body. Is it a good feeling then? Or how do I feel after somebody walking past me? Their energy, their frequency.
That's a really important part to associate with when you are setting up tolerations and boundaries in your life. And I don't know, I'm not sure, and I'm not going to assume, have you read the book Energy Vampires? But it talks about there are some people in our life, when I'm working with people on tolerations and boundaries, there's some people in our life that we need to let go of. Now, we can't let go of them completely if they're a family member, because of loyalty, the value of loyalty, we must keep them in our life. But the question to monitor the people that you can keep in your life is when you ask yourself the question, after being in their company, you go, how do I feel after having time with this person? Am I looking forward to seeing them again? And that's the answer. So I remember I was quite young in the coaching world, really loving every minute of it. But I was naive and people would bring me up and just want to pick my brains and I'd meet them for lunch. And then I realized I was also now encouraging people that were dumping on me. So somebody would say, Mary, I'll meet you for lunch. And I'd be in great form. I'd meet them for lunch. But over lunch, they were knocking the weather, the men in Ireland, the country, the seat, they changed seats 3 times at the table. And then they give an about everything. And I remember walking back from being with them for the hour and I'm going, I'm drained. I'm absolutely exhausted. My energy is gone. So it is all about like who we surround ourselves with as well, with resilience as well. Who have we got that gives us the resources to get through things,
And also for me, Mary, is I think we have to like ourselves. I think part of that resilience, and we have to like ourselves. We have to trust ourselves. And that comes from the mindset as well, going back to that mindset and the language and our self-talk. But we have to also, with resilience, know that we can walk into a room and know that even if nobody likes us in that room, that we can go in that room and still be connected to our core values, our thoughts, our self-talk, the words that we use, our emotions, our behaviors, our actions to get the outcomes that we want.
Well, it's interesting you should say that because, I would have given a huge amount of talks in the past and still do, but not as many with, VHI and that. I remember one time going in and sometimes remember some people are sent to your workshops that don't want to be there.
Yes.
Like you have the ones that want to be there, but then there's some of them that must do it as a call a duty rather than I want to be there. And I remember this time, and coming up to your point, I remember starting to talk and one person in the front of the audience when I started to talk, took out her phone and started like texting on her phone. Now, two things happened for me. I remember looking at her and saying, Mary, see this as a Hector in the audience. Just see this as someone that wants to stop you in your tracks. Now go to your own resources and just say, I'm here to give my best, people to receive my best, and they're going to experience my best. And I just continued on. Now you're talking about that's personal resilience. That's where you believe you have a message, a meaning, and a purpose to be there. And you just let go. And the interesting question I always ask is, what am I here to learn from that person? Because anybody that you meet that causes friction within yourself, as Michael, what you call I adore him, Michael Singer would say, disturbance in yourself. They're there because they're there to teach you a lesson.
Yeah.
So people come into your life either for you to learn from them or they to learn from you. So that person there obviously was there to test me out, to test maybe my resilience, to test, is this person going to kind of fall down because I'm here on my phone tapping away when she's
Or
sitting in the
are we
program?
looking for validation outside ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or are we content with the validation? I think too, liking ourselves, as we mentioned before, the biggest challenge in this life is liking ourselves, loving ourselves, appreciating ourselves.
Well, I think the biggest challenge in this life, Roisin, is giving ourselves freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom to love, freedom to be ourselves, freedom. Because if we're not free from our own thoughts and our own mind, they control us.
Yeah.
And I'm so strong about our mind being so much part of our life, but not that when you go deeper spiritually, you realize the conscious soul is we are the observer of what our mind is thinking. Now that's far deeper, but that's obviously where I'm heading, where I'm realizing I'm just the observer of what I think. And I can allow those thoughts affect my emotions that will bring about different results. I can play to those thoughts, I can ignore those thoughts, or I can let them flow through me. You know, my thoughts aren't in control of me.
No.
The thoughts aren't, we are the constant observer that observes our thinking, that observes our doing. And when we get to that place of spirituality, it's a wonderful place to be because you realize that the only place to be is totally in the present moment and being able to sit and observe what you're thinking and decide whether to give it energy or not.
And I think too, is I always say, I said somebody this weekend, I'm a free spirit.
There you are. That's what we're
And you
talking
talk about freedom.
Yeah,
And you
that's
talk
what you're
about what I
talking
just said
Yeah.
before you said that.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah.
And I've always been a free spirit.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah. And people think that they are, what's the word, controlled from the outside world. We're not controlled at all from the outside world. We're actually controlled by our inner mind.
Yeah.
We're controlled about how we react and when we shouldn't to situations and events. And
like that reaction, do we react or do we respond? And we choose whether we react or whether we respond.
Exactly. The reaction feeds the amygdala. The respond feeds your own observer, yourself being able to say, you know, I can stop myself before going to anger. I can stop myself before I actually react. And instead, I would just be in the present moment and respond.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great area, resilience. I think
it is, Mary.
And just we didn't men. I'm not in any way knocking the young people. My son is young. I love young people, and we have a lot to learn from them as they have from us. I just feel they mightn't sometimes have the same challenges that we had or that we learned from our previous family. But you know what? They will need resilience in different ways. Example would be the social media and how they can resource themselves against maybe, whatever happens in social media. Sometimes it can be very upsetting for them, bullying or, being knocked.
The validation of looking for validation through social media. People don't even know with likes, shares and comments. As a media student, one of the things I learned as a media student, when I went back to education, was the theory of media. And the theory of when you understand why social media was set up, when you understand the theory of media, the power and influence media has, and also when you understand media formats, which I love media. That was one of my favorite, was media studies. And I went in to study PR, but I found that the media theory was really like where I loved it. But even also the theory and the purpose and intention of reality television was to dumb down the younger generation. And if you think of the what is the reality television, it's all about getting validation, getting and getting people to vote people in, vote people to stay in, vote people off.
Yeah.
And then the reality television is really, it became about celebrities. It became about being a celebrity, becoming an influencer.
Yeah.
And taking away and so it's all about being famous, being a celebrity for what? For nothing, just for being well known.
Yeah.
But when you know that you've had to work and achieve and overcome obstacles in life and challenges, no matter what they are, going back to what my friend said, Bush Caldwell Hammond, she said, you've got to get over this fence, whether you get over it, under it, or around it, but you've got to get to the other side to get to the other fence.
Yeah, and I see the huge difference in what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And what's really sad is they need, you see, I learned a long time ago that if we can get most of our emotional needs met by others, we can get other needs met by others, critical needs. However, the only need that we cannot get met by others is the approval of thyself. And from what you're saying there about the media, what's happening is that the media is encouraging people to look for validation externally, to look for approval externally, whereas the only approval that's necessary is the approval of yourself and approval of you living in alignment with your values. So that's what's happening. And the poor young people are feeling, well, I need approval or recognition from out there. That's all external. They're not looking for the internal validation of themselves. And that's exactly what you're saying there. They're not getting that internal validation that comes from within themselves.
And sometimes, even as a parent, you can allow your children to go out to the world and make mistakes.
Absolutely. You cannot learn
and be there
journey for others. Yeah.
Be there for when they come home and they have a scraped knee, to clean up the wound, put a band-aid on it, and just give them a hug and love and say, I'm here. Yeah. Come back, go out, go on that bike and go out for the, go out and your first love, your first heartbreak, that's all learning. To connect to ourselves. And remember, I said to you that coaching for me personally, what I really believe coaching is, from my perspective, is connecting to ourselves.
Yes.
And that to me is the most powerful thing, when we have that self-connection to our spirit, our soul, our being.
Yeah.
That's with our own identity.
And that's where you get the peace, the fulfillment, the happiness, of acceptance of thyself, So so it's a very interesting subject.
Wow. Mary, we could talk all day and all night and all week.
Your example was remarkable, and I know nothing was practiced. It was all
we didn't even talk about because I cancelled this from Monday because all our computers and technology was all in the suitcase in the car because we were away at the weekend. On my first online live, you could say my first Irish political roundup, my sister YouTube channel, we did our first live outside broadcast. So everything was away. So I phoned you Monday, sent you a voice message saying, Mary, could we postpone until Wednesday? And I would say, the universe works in most mysterious ways.
And what I want to say to you, though, is that's one of your goals that you're after achieving, one of them. The icing on the cake. So you need really, Roisin, to give yourself really great credit for achieving it,
Because you know what? There was I have an interest in politics. I'm not a politician, but I grew up in the North. you know, in the north with the troubles. I lived in Africa, I lived in Saudi Arabia, I lived in the UK, I lived down here. But, you know, I have a lot, people say, oh, I'm not into politics. Well, everything's political in life. Where we're conceived, what hospital we're born in, what our first home was, what school we went to, playground politics with the school, with children, with teachers and parents at the school gate.
Yeah.
You get invited home to people's parties. It's all that politics.
Yeah.
And so the thing I said when I set up the second YouTube channel, Paul, and I said, you know what? Because I love politics. I love the tallies. I used to be a tally, you know, tallying the votes.
Yeah.
And Paul taught me to do that. We were in the Labour Party together, and then I left and he left. And then we were in the radio together, in the same radio station. He's still there. And then I left. And I said, okay, well, because I loved formats in media studies. I just came. And that was where I realized I was creative. I never realized that I was creative until I was 50.
There you are.
So it's knowing that resilience is also knowing your strengths.
And shining light on your potential. And sometimes that light isn't shone until you're 50. It sometimes can be, you know, it could be in a drawer and not even discovered until, you know, and at least the great thing is, Roisin, you are alive when you've discovered it. You know, I mean, you think about Anne Frank and all her paintings were left in the drawers before she had to die before they were recognized. You know, so the question is, as Wayne Dyer would say, are you dying with the music inside you? But you're not. You're dancing. You're not. You're dancing.
But you don't want me to sing, because my son used to say I sing like a ba ba ba.
Well, what I will say though is, from your weekend, and it would be a lovely way to close on our conversation, would be from your weekend, you know, having achieved, as you said to me earlier, icing on the cake for the results that you got this weekend. What resilience, because you've shared a lot of your resilience that are brilliant, you know, your determination.
And that wasn't planned either.
Sorry?
That wasn't planned either.
So is there any new resource that you got from the weekend that we haven't named?
I think when it was beforehand. It was on the Thursday night. And I said to my colleague, you know what? He was worried about, when he make mistakes, when he do this. I said, you know what? We've already won the prize. We're going to collect it. Whatever mistakes we make, we'll learn from them for the next time. You know, let's forget it. This is what I said. Let's go and enjoy the moment. Let's enjoy. And if anything goes wrong, it goes wrong. It's technology. We can't, you know, they used to say, don't work with children or animals. Well, I add, don't work with children, animals, or technology. You know, so, well, especially, you know, but with me, but to me, I think I came at that resource. When you're doing something new, don't worry about what mistakes you're going to make. Think about, I'm going to go there, enjoy it. And what goes wrong, is we'll take the positive learning with us.
So that resource would be acceptance of what is in the present moment. Let's accept whatever it is going to be as it happens. As it happens. Acceptance in the present moment. And you know, it's amazing, because one of the, you know, I'm always, well, you do know, I'm always listening to quotes and people send me different things. And there was one quote on resilience, and I can't tell you who sent it to me, and I don't know who wrote it, because I have one from Viktor Frankl, which is brilliant, from the Man's Search Meaning book, and it's brilliant. But this one was, now I think 2 reasons. It does affect my life as well. I'm not going to go into my story of my life, but I'm just saying. And it said, resilience is accepting where you are today, even though it's less than what you had in the past.
Ooh.
That it has just hit.
Say that again. Say that again.
Every part of me. Resilience is accepting where you are today, even though you had more in the past.
Wow, that really resonates with me.
I'm telling you, that really resonates with me. I just went, that's me, that's my life. And I have 2 choices. Where I am right now, I have a choice of being morbid about it, or saying, God, compared to what I had or what I did. Or I can be very proactive and be resilient about it and say, it's a new beginning. I accept where I am today, even though it's less than what I had before. I accept where I am today. To me, that is the cornerstone of resilience.
It is.
You think about the famous people that go up the ladder all the way and they fall back down, you know, and some of them commit suicide when they fall back down. They can't deal with it. And Lord of mercy on my father, he said it to me a long time ago. He said, Mary, the higher you go up, the further you go up. And I always laugh at him because I was on a lot of TV that time because I run the first coast in Ireland, and I put on a bit of weight and I had to laugh at him. He's in the hospital bed and he said, Mary, two things. You put on weight, and TV, you put on an extra stone weight. Now you look really overweight. And I go, Dad. And then the second thing he said to me was, remember, Mary, now, the higher you go up, the harder to fall down. And I go, that's the last thing I need to hear. Like, that's the last thing I need to hear. But I mean, that was a long time ago. I talking about long time ago.
But I can resonate with that because I lost everything a couple of times. And I always think about that too with the horses and the ponies and stuff.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was when I was around 4, I think, when I went on my first 4, when I first went, and it was at St. Stephen's Day. I always remember my father, that was one of the Christmas presents, horse riding lessons. And my sister, it was more for my sister, but you know how we got you both horse riding. And it was always bringing up, doesn't matter how many times you fall off the horse, it's about getting back on the horse.
I think, though, with that saying, and as I said, I can't give the credit because I can't remember where I got from. I just think it just sums up resilience because, it's easy to be resilient if you go out on a venture and you achieve it and you do brilliant. Now, along the way, you came across challenges and you overcame the challenges and you got there. It's still brilliant. You're still resilient. But resilience to me is when you are landed today in a place that's lower or not as good as or as brilliant as you were before. So what do you do?
It's the learning, it's the knowledge, it's the wisdom.
It's the journey. It's the journey. Yeah, it's the journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very.
You think of the wisdom that people have by failing. That's more wisdom than someone who everything just goes smoothly and is plain sailing.
There's no learning there.
There's no learning in that.
Yeah.
There's no wisdom to actually pass on and teach the younger generation.
No.
And that's what we have to do now. We have to really give the younger generation the skills, the tools and techniques and understanding of resilience.
And I think one great way with resilience, and I use it not very often, but I do use a bit of it because of coaches who would have been trained in metaphors. I find for young people, now I'm not talking about, I only coach people 18 onwards, you know what I mean? So I'm not talking about really young people, but I'm just saying they love metaphors because it bypasses the conscious mind and gets them to be visual and imagination comes into play. And I find resilience sometimes, instead of talking to them at and about resilience, you give them a story.
Yes.
And you ask them, think about a time when you started to learn how to ride a bicycle, or think about a time, whatever. And guy, do they get the resilience? Well, what did happen? What did you learn? And because you involve them in the story and it's not personal, they will get it so much quicker. It's unreal.
Yeah. It's just, Mary, we could be talking for Ireland.
That's a good name. Yeah.
But oh my God, I just really, really value our time together and and chatting and I learned so much from you. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I want to say to Roshan today, I want to thank you so much for sharing that personal part of you that was so resilient. I mean, it's given me brilliant belief in people and how resilient, because you're an brilliant example of it. The subject is so pointed, but it was so natural and it was all nothing planned. It was just the flow of it. But my personal of course intention would be that anybody watching will get something out of it, even if it's one gem, even one thought or one thing that will impact your life to be more positive and to be more resilient from your example as well.
Yeah, I don't know what I said. I can't remember the example.
Because you're in the
And I'm
present
not going to
moment.
overthink it. I'm not going to overthink it. Otherwise, I might
No.
not put this up. So I'm
Yeah.
just going to top and tail this, and it's going up, Mary. Because
Okay.
I actually, when you were saying about my examples, that you probably could see by my facial expression, like, what did I say? See how my voice went up there when I says, "What did I say?" It's like, oh God.
So true.
Our
Okay.
Mary Curran, thank you so much indeed for taking the time to come on the Woman to Woman show here on Confident Women Island and chat today about resilience. Because and it goes back to what my friend Vicky used to always say: when you have something of value to say, people will listen. And I know people will certainly listen to what you have to say with all your knowledge, experience, and wisdom and the
Thank you,
journey
Roisin.
of life.
And you too, Roisin, the exact same back to you.
Thank you so much indeed, Mary
Okay.
Curran.
Thank you, Roisin.